Welcome to hour number 2. It's Dylan Butler, ladies and gentlemen. Have you recovered from your high school experience?
No.
Right there with you, brother.
No, and it's ongoing.
Because I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, no. Literally, I went from the day before my last basketball game. In addition to prepping for said basketball game, I was getting charts ready and together for actually a college lacrosse game I'm doing. I'm pretty excited about it. Marquette and Penn State. Penn State ranked 5 in the country right now. It's a game that's played here on Long Island at MacArthur High School. Last year, Penn played Duke in the game, so it's kind of an annual thing where 2 teams from outside the area come here to like the hotbed of lacrosse. So really excited to get to be doing play-by-play for the big one on Saturday.
Yeah, because while last week you were doing which high school sport last week? Basketball?
Basketball, yeah.
Yep, I was right there with you on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It was the high school basketball championships here in the state of Georgia. Replays available on the GPB Sports YouTube channel.
Where do they play those?
Right now, let's just say right now, it is in the middle of the state, and they try to do that to be equitable for all of the schools, for travel and things like that. So the Macon Coliseum and the Macon Centerplex, it is a 50-year-old building that was recently renovated. It has minor league hockey from the SPHL for the Macon Mayhem.
Ooh.
But that is, I believe, a distant third to some of the previous incarnations of the sport that have played in that building. You have the Macon Trax, TRAX, and you have the Macon Whoopee.
Yes, I remember that name.
Yeah, see, the Macon Whoopee was the biggest one. So the Macon Whoopee, and literally in some incarnations of their logo, a fig leaf was integrated as a part of it for the Macon Whoopee. So
yeah, my games were at St. John's University, which was nice, my alma mater. So good to be back on campus. Yeah, no, it was good. It was a great end to the basketball season, and now straight to lacrosse. In fact, last night, terrific lacrosse weather here on Long Island. Was at Hofstra for USA Lacrosse magazine, doing a story on Joey Spallina and Syracuse coming to Hofstra to play a game. I have a cool one for you and the audience, because this goes beyond just wall pass, right?
Yeah, wall pass Wednesday.
Yeah. So the Stewart Stadium is where they play lacrosse at Hofstra. The 4th floor is press box.
Okay.
You take the elevator down 1 floor. It's the highfalutin luxury suites.
Yes.
And then you get down to 1 and you're out and you go to the press conference. So it's Syracuse and Hofstra yesterday, right? So elevator goes dings to 3, and I said to the guy next to me, like, "Oh wait, here we go, right?" Like the well-to-do suite people, and it opens up, and I have to go like this. It's Derek Coleman.
Nice.
DC. And I'm like, obviously Syracuse, I get it, but I'm like, you've come to Hofstra on a random Tuesday when it's 25 degrees out to watch a lacrosse game. And then it hit me afterwards. I wish it hit me in the elevator. I would have spoken to him about it. But he was at Syracuse the same time Gary Gait was at Syracuse. And Gary Gait, arguably the greatest lacrosse player of all time. My guess is they're boys. So he came out to see Gary and of course Syracuse. So pretty wild running into Derek Coleman in the in the elevator.
No doubt. Jarrett Smith joining us for hour number 2 as well on a Wall Pass Wednesday.
Who ran into Jared in the elevator yesterday? Anybody like Derek Coleman for you? Shaq? Anyone?
No, I mean, well, the problem is most of the ones I run into, like I'm already 6'5", most of the ones I run into are equal height, except for the time, there was the time where I did open the door to a Thai place and bumped into Dikembe Mutombo, which was startling.
Is that a block or charge?
I think it was a. I don't know. It wasn't. It would have ended poorly for me. It probably would have been a block on me because I don't think I could elicit a charge against Dikembe Mutombo.
Jared, you try. No.
Ungodly huge. Like I'm used to being one of the taller people in the room. Like on scrums. I generally like scrums in Atlanta United's locker room. Like I generally stand behind everyone else because I just stick my arm up and over everybody, so I don't have these problems. And then you see someone who's over 7 feet tall, and all you can do is go, "Oh, okay, cool."
Yeah, even Derek Coleman would have to look up to him because when I checked, I think he's 6'10". So
yeah, those guys like that are just that's just different.
Yes. So Emilio with the Walpassian question.
Yeah.
Emilio is pre-Red Storm. What is a Red Storm actually?
Don't get me started. So obviously, look, they were the Redmen. It was never meant to be and have an Indian connotation until like some support groups of St. John started, using different things involving Indians. So obviously there was that connection, and then as soon as there was an uproar, they changed it to Red Storm. It's a great question. In fact, I was at the press conference, and by the way, it was never meant to be. Redmond was like Orangeman, like it was just the color that those guys wore.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. So anyway, I remember being at the press conference for Red Storm, and Lou Carnesecca was part of that press conference. He had since retired, but you just bring in Lou, right? Because he's the godfather there. So there it was the name Red Storm, and then there was a horse, and people were like, Coach Carnesecca, why the horse? And then he thought for a second. He's like, horses are virile, and they're strong, and they can. You need that in the Big East. Like he was just.
Oh wow.
Tap dancing up there, but it was pretty funny. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Red Storm. When I was there, I never chanted, let's go Red Storm. In fact, for even the school, like they kind of gone away with it, where they rather chant Johnny's,
yeah.
So yeah, it's I never understood that decision from a marketing perspective. And then they even got rid of the SJU. Like now it went to STJ, and St. Joe's in Philly kind of, I guess, took full ownership of SJU. So I don't know.
All right, let's talk a little soccer here. If I was to mention CCL Fever and Violette and Austin FC, we got two tracks that we can talk about here. And that's one of them is what Violette was able to accomplish, combined with what Austin was able to accomplish. What lane of traffic do you want to talk about first as to who accomplished what they accomplished with this one?
I guess it depends on what mood you're in. Do you want to dunk? Like, speaking of Derek Coleman, do you want to dunk on Austin? I guess we could certainly do that. Or do you romanticize, like in a March Madness type of way, the Cinderella story that is Violette, right? So you can go either way. It's funny. I saw an Opta. Opta's great with all their tweets, right? And I saw an Opta tweet that said they were the first Caribbean team to beat an MLS side since W Connection out of Trinidad beat the Red Bulls I was there for that. Actually, I went to Trinidad. I covered the first leg at what was the stadium? Oh man, I can't remember the name of it right now. But yeah, I was there. I was in Trinidad for that, and what was it, 2009? I think it was
2009.
And then the second leg at Giant Stadium, and you just assume, right, they would pull that out. They didn't, and that was part of one of their worst seasons, if not the worst season they've ever had. But yeah, no. So, and this was even a bigger upset than that because they at least played regular league games in Trinidad, right? So, yeah, it's, you know, you always love whether it's Champions League, U.S. Open Cup, FA Cup in England, any of these type of situations. You love the underdog story. So that part is certainly fun. And what a harsh lesson for Austin in their first trip into CCL, right? Like where, you heard Josh Wolf talk about not having the right mentality in the first leg. He did a poor job with as much rotation, which also showed you that he wasn't respecting his opponent. So yeah, I think a poor job, certainly by them, and they paid a big price by the embarrassment of getting knocked out right away.
Jared Smith for Dylan Butler.
Yeah, and to that point for that game, I feel like because this is something we saw Atlanta deal with, man, like, God, okay, it would have been 2019. There's something about that, and the 3-0 loss on the road, where it always feels like it's a bridge too far. Austin, and I thought Austin was going to have to score earlier than they did to make it fun, and they made it fun. And the shot chart on that game, it looks like a bunker that's been bombed for about 3 weeks straight. But it's something about, we had this argument in 2019 with Frank de Boer, his first season with Atlanta United, that he went down 2-0 on the road in Mexico, and instead of packing it in and saying, okay, we're down 2-0 on the road, nothing good's going to come from this, let's pack it in, let's go home and see if we can knot this thing up at 2. It goes down 3, and it just, I don't know, man, it just feels like anytime it goes to 3, be it there, be it, Red Bulls in Atlanta in 2018 in the MLS in the playoff Eastern Conference Final, where I think if you had to do it all over again, maybe Armas packs it in a little bit more. It just feels like that 3-0 is the straw that breaks the camel's back so often.
And I mean, when you look at this now, Dylan, I mean, it's, I give Emro Tark a lot of credit. It was a banger in the first leg, but that's not the kind of banger that you want. The hangover that you can have associated with something like this. I mean, I know a lot of folks. Bart Keeler, who is on an hour number 1, was looking at Jossie Zardes and going, okay, why? The hangover that you could have from this, it really could give you a pall for a lot of the season if you don't shake it off quick.
For sure, and two, they didn't. Their league form hasn't really been great either, right?
Yeah.
Right out of the gate. So there is reason to, I think, be concerned early on for a team that, look, right? They were one of the best in the West a year ago. Made the Western Conference Final. Like they were, if not obviously for LAFC in their double, they were right there. So for sure, I think, they're still, as you mentioned, I mean, I think Zardes should have been or should be an upgrade at that position, but still not, like if you go around, there's 29 teams. Where does he rank among number 9s, right? Like, I don't think he's in the top 10 of number 9s in the league. So, granted, you upgrade where you were poor last year, but not significantly, right? So, yes, that's an issue. And also, you put so many eggs into the Jerisi basket, right? Like that's not going to work often, right? Like he could have a great season, he could have a couple great seasons, but he needs support, he needs help, and they've not done a good job of that.
Burned in the Twitch pitch this morning. Tata said it best when talking about Atlanta and CCL in 2019. Clubs need to acquire institutional knowledge, in quotation marks, about how to operate in CCL when they first play in it, applied to Austin as well, clearly. Institutional knowledge needed, and this is going to be a lesson for Austin, and you hope, if you're a fan of Verde, that you're going to get a chance to take that institutional knowledge and hop back in. But
and you would think that he would have that, right? Like, because he's played on the national team, right? Like, he's gone to these places as a player, and he knows what CONCACAF is about, right? Like, to get CONCACAF. Like, he's been there. He's done that. He's not this isn't I don't know, some European coach coming over to coach an expansion team and not having that understanding, right? Like, he should know. He should know better.
Jarrett, what else is on your mind for Dylan this morning?
Well, and then the other end of the CONCACAF Champions League teams that were in it last night, it felt like the last two games have been kind of like a slow start for a Philadelphia team that I think we all expected to be near the top of the East by the time it's all said and done anyway. Counter to Austin, how much do you think last night can be a jumping off point for Philadelphia to find a consistent form across the league as well as CONCACAF?
Yeah, it's funny, right? Like, you look back at the first legs, and obviously, like, there was major concern with Austin, right? Understandably, but I don't think anyone was like so much like, Philly, like, yeah, they didn't get a goal, but you were never really thinking that they had any sort of worry at all, right? Like, they had rotated.
The biggest thing, you don't want to lose the tie.
But I'll say this: so Orlando and Philly in similar boats, right? For that 0-0 on the road. Yeah. But you felt so much better, and again, that's quality of opponent too. But I think you felt so much better about Philly's chances coming back home, I think, than you do Orlando. That said, Gignac reportedly not part of that team, right? So that's a huge loss, but I'm jumping ahead to that. But to go back to Philly, yeah, like, you just felt, listen, we got a 0-0, we rotated our squad, and we're just going to kick it into gear at home, in which is what they did. And even that too, even though it didn't come right away, like, still you felt like the floodgates are going to open and they're going to score the goals that they need. And they certainly did that, and advanced. I'm not certainly breaking any ground here or news here, but it was Philly and LAFC for me that were the two teams that you felt had the best chance this year of maybe repeating what Seattle did last year. Now, the injury to Blake, how long is he out? That's a big concern. It wasn't in this round. It could be certainly going forward.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next point, is that you're having to do it with hashtag Bendick face in net for Philly. But when you look at league play and that wall that's in front of Joe Bendick, the concern both in competition here in this hemisphere and in Major League Soccer, you're not as concerned. And I think that Jim Curtin said that it was not a long-term injury for Andre Blake, speaking in very, very Stanley Cup coach overtones. It's an upper body injury. Yeah, we get it. And we got into this discussion also, Jarrett and I, earlier this week, is that when you have coaches, whether you're talking about week-to-week competition or in hemispheric play, coaches don't have to tell you ish. They don't have to say word one about injuries. And I know that a lot of folks get wrapped up into this notion of, I need every piece of information given to me about my club so I can, and about the other club. They don't have to tell you a bleeping thing about players, especially with a Philadelphia club that is trying to repeat in the Eastern Conference, Why give advance intel to your opponents about a length of time, about an injury for one of your most key players? Why even do stuff like that? But we found that it's not a long-term injury, in quotation marks, and yes, I just did use air quotes, from Jim Curtin referring to Andre Blake and having Bendick face in net for the foreseeable future.
You do wonder, though, if that's going to change. The sharing of information, I should say, is going to change in the near future with so much of betting, at the forefront, right? Like, I still think there's going to be a back and forth, and there's going to be a push pull with coaches not wanting to show their hands, or like you see this a lot too. Like they release an injury report on like Wednesday, and there's still 3 days of training left before they play on Saturday. So
I could give two royal rats, knowing that information is going to be at a premium anyway, and if my club is sharing information, I don't care. I know the guy's injured. I know that there's depth available or that there's going to be an issue. Why should a coach have to divulge information if they don't have to when it comes to competition?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you.
I mean, you can want them to, but they're going to do what they're forced to do. So if they are forced to divulge information, they're gonna do it within the boundaries of the rules, because we ran into this. I think one of the if you want an example from like Atlanta, well, you ran into this a lot with Ezequiel Barco, where you didn't want to give information when he was dealing with a leg injury because you wanted to be careful about how much he was going to be targeted.
Mm-hmm.
And because guys are going to target guys who are banged up, especially guys who can be game changers. So that's not breaking news for anybody.
No. It's not. When you sit there and it's like, okay, I know that guy's the number one gun. I know the number one gun is dinged up. To what extent is he dinged up? It's an upper body injury or it's a lower body injury. If I'm a coach, that's all. Within the parameters of the guide rules, the guideposts, when it comes to the rules, I'm treating it like Stanley Cup postseason. It's a lower body injury. It's a game day decision. That's how I'm doing it. I have satisfied the parameters of what the league needs me to tell me. I mean, am I wrong, Dylan? I'm not. It's like I'm going with what the league wants me to say. It's a lower body injury, game time decision. We don't know yet.
Listen, if the speed limit is 55, right? Like you get in within 50, to 65, 64, you're good.
Yeah,
right. You're right in there. You're right in that window.
Mm-hmm. I haven't had the chance to really catch up with you about Alston-Bird. And now that we finally have the revelations out of that investigation, the 3 months that they took to pour over every piece of information, when it comes to the Reynas, the Berhalters, U.S. Soccer, when you've had to digest Alston-Bird, and I know that it is basically the soccer investigative version of War and Peace, what are some of your takeaways from Alston-Bird now that it's out?
It's funny. I mean, I haven't I haven't read it completely.
No.
To be honest. But look, it's not all that different. It's a bad look. It's a bad look for the Reynas. It's a bad look for U.S. Soccer. It's just that there's nothing good that comes out of it, really, right? I mean, that's for me. Nothing that emerged from that. I'm not surprised, and I don't think there are any big revelations other than just kind of details that we didn't have before, like specifics in terms of text messages or things like that. So I'm just looking forward to the point where we could kind of move on from that whole telenovela of the Reynas versus the Berhalters versus U.S. Soccer, and I think and I think you spoke about it a little bit in the last hour, but I just I feel bad for Gio Reyna in this situation, right? Because if you put yourself in his shoes, right, like he's still young, right? He's still a kid. He reacted as probably a lot of kids would. he apologized for his actions. And then it was kind of move on from that. And then to have this whole thing happen with his parent, like, it's just embarrassing. Right. So feel bad for the kid. You hope within his club and his friends. I know Joe Scally is really tight with him from their days with the NYCFC Academy. Like, you hope there's a good support system for him, and to kind of work through this whole situation. And I guess the best remedy probably for him is just to head down and play your football, right? Like, get to training and do your stuff, and maybe it's best that he's not even in the States, right? Like, that he's at least a little bit further away. I don't know how many, if any, in the German media are asking him these questions, right? So but my biggest takeaway from that is embarrassment overall, but really feeling bad for Gio, who again acted as a kid, and then the adults in the room just didn't do their part.
Jarrett, go for it.
No, and I I'm glad to go to that, because that's where I was yesterday when we were discussing this. Was if the issues with his parents and the way they've acted aside, if that's what he's been used to growing up, I mean, it's a matter of product of your environment. And I'm glad you bring up the issue at the World Cup and how he dealt with it, because it sounds like, from my understanding, that he dealt with, after the team spoke with him and after they explained everything to him, that he did everything he should have done. Got on the field in the last game. They had a come to Jesus meeting with him, and things got better, and he took that positive step, and hopefully he's able to do it. But on top of the usual pressure of being, a worldwide soccer player who plays for a national team and has high expectations, to have even more drama and chaos thrown on it, I hope it doesn't mess with him too much, or at least that he's got people he can talk to, and therapy, whatever it may be, that he needs to make sure that it's not inhibiting not just his playing career, but his personal life.
All right, we got last question on the board for you. You want to talk about some actual games, Dylan, this weekend?
Sure.
That we got, when it comes to this grid coming up this weekend, you've got Red Bulls in Columbus at RBA, NYC in DC, Purple Team in Charlotte, Toronto, who has no Insigne, no Dio, no Acco, Ionola. So they're in trouble at home against Inter Miami. Dallas and KC. You've got a Copa Tejas with Houston and Austin. St. Louis. We haven't had the chance to talk about St. Louis City SC. They've got a home match against San Jose, Colorado, Minnesota, LA, and Vancouver. What sticks out from this weekend?
Yeah, start with St. Louis. Really, I mean, they're chasing history, right? Where they, the only other team in MLS history to start an expansion season 3-0 was Seattle. No team has done that 4-0. So that's what they're chasing at home against the San Jose team. That's been better. They've had a lot of late drama, as has St. Louis. So that should be fun. And listen, that's a great story. We don't have the time to dive deep into it, but kudos to St. Louis City. I mean, you talk about getting it right, and there's so many reasons how they've gotten it right, from bringing in their head coach a year in advance to bringing in a lot of their players a year in advance. That's almost unheard of, right? Like, you already well before the start of preseason, have guys together, getting acclimated to their new surroundings, so they could hit preseason kind of already a little bit comfortable in their environment, which so many, I don't know of any other expansion team that's had that ramp up, or thought of that ramp up, I guess. And they did so with a clear identity of how they want to play. And I think that's probably the most important part of it all, where you knew right away how they were going to play, and they knew the players they needed for the way they wanted to play as well, right? So, and they delivered. Like they don't. look, they're gonna hit their speed bump at some point, no doubt. But they have not looked the part of an expansion team, and I think that's been a revelation. It's been a fun. They've been the storybook, or they've been the feel good story of the start of the season. And then the other one is, that early kickoff with Seattle LAFC. That should be a lot of fun as well, between an LAFC team that, like, they see St. Louis's start. They're like, well, hang on, I know, we haven't played. You might have played one more game than us, but we're going to go and bang in 3 more goals and 4 more goals, and they've looked, they're in mid-season form, and you hear a similar thing too from Cherundolo too, right? Where, like, they practice exactly, they know how they're supposed to play. We recruit for our playing philosophy, so we could lose a Chicho Arango and not miss a beat. And that's been the case for them, obviously, 10 goals in 3 matches in all competitions. So they look great. And yeah, like, what version of Seattle is going to come out this week, right? They were terrific the first couple of weeks. We said that, at least I've said, I think their best 11 is up there with anybody else's best 11, but they don't have the depth. And Eber is out injured. Rui Diaz is not back in the field yet, and they suffered that loss to Cincinnati. So, the injury report that you referenced before, let's see what that looks like for Seattle, and what team they put on the field against LAFC.
What's next at MLSsoccer.com and OSDB?
Holy smoke! I'm on the CCL desk tonight. Where do we have 3 right tonight?
Yeah,
so
3 tonight.
Long night, maybe extra coffee.
Real España at the Estadio Olímpico Metropolitano. Yeah. Purple team's hosting Tigres, and then your late matches, LAFC and Alajuelense, which is probably going to be over, and I mean over early, not in the sense of over by 11:30 or 12. It will be over in this already. I think it's already over in the sense of it's high. Unless it's Alajuelense we don't know about.
For OSDB, I'm going to speak with one of the St. Louis guys, the winning goal scorer last week, Kyle Hibbert. So that should be fun. Going to do a story on him, and it's funny. He was one of those guys who was in too, right? MLS Next Pro guy a year ago, and thrust into the starting lineup, scores the winning goal, right? Like a cool sort of story as part of that. And as I mentioned, Marquette and Penn State lacrosse on Saturday on Varsity Media's YouTube channel. So
there you go. And the 7-year college plan. It's the Blutarski college plan for Kyle Hibbert. 7 years of college, although it wasn't down the drain.
Hey, I did 5, but I switched majors.
Okay, understood. I'm right there with you. I did 2 years and 9 months just to get out and try to get out a year ahead of my class. Unfortunately, there were folks that went into college the year before I did that took the full 4 years that I was fighting with that I didn't quite realize when it came to the job front. Enjoy your coffee. What's the mug this morning?
Oh, yeah. And be a goldfish. Ted Lasso back out today, right?
Yes, It is Ted Lasso season for those who celebrate. We'll talk St. Louis City SC in episode 1 of Ted Lasso next week. Be well, my friend.
All right, boys.